What's up guys, YST here and welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today, we've got some shard news like there always is in Raid nowadays. But this one actually has a guaranteed epic up for grabs, which is actually a game changer, and on my account, it's somebody that I use a ton in so many places. But I'll also be breaking down all of the 10x champions that will be coinciding with the Great Hoof Loriaka Summon Rush event. So for anybody that's happening to summon some shards, these are the ones that you may be seeing when you're opening yours. And then last but not least, we do have the implementation of a new legendary champion that I believe is obtainable from a champion training event to celebrate episode 6 of Call of the Arbiter from the Jizzle episode, which at the time of recording this video, I've not seen it yet. So I'll be breaking down the skills, but by the time you're watching this, the champion should already be live in game. And you guys can let me know how you feel about her as a whole. Alright, let's go into the juicy stuff first. I'm pretty sure many of you guys are thinking about who can this be for the guaranteed game changer. And she goes by the name of Godseeker Aniri from the Sacred Orders faction. And for anybody that has this champion, or just simply anybody that's wanting this champion, really knows the value, because we speak about this Rise of Glory, reviving a dead ally with 50% HP, then fills their turn meter by 50% and resets the cooldowns of all of their skills. Now, I like to use this when maybe Geomancer drops off and you bring them back to place more burns instantly, or even for Nuka skills, or simply the Sand Devil's Necropolis to bring back your dead ally, to pair very well with Ninjas and Walking Tomb Dreng to pull out the best duo strategy for the highest stages of the Sand Devil's Necropolis. Very, very good. But she also, with the Guardian Angel to coincide with that A3, with the active effect, if an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit, will preempt that hit and instantly place a revive on death on them for 1 turn before the damage is taken, and also increases the amount of healing allies receive by 10%. Now this is a phenomenal skill on a 4-turn cooldown here, and I really like to use this in the Iron Twins Fortress for when one of my champions are about to die. Keeps them alive, puts a little bit of revive on them, and if they happen to die after that, we do have that A3 for extra coverage. But swiftly leading into the A2 with the Quest for Meaning, she attacks all enemies and heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, and then will decrease the duration of all buffs on enemies by 1 turn, whether that be decrease attack or increase attack, or increase defense, has some universal value. But it also increases the duration of all buffs and all allies by 1 turn, very similar to Sandlash Survivors, Anchorites, and champions of that caliber. It's a very strong one, especially for the Demon Lord Clan boss, is where it came into fruition for myself. But can also be used in stuff like the Doom Tower, right? Like even the Hydra boss, great example. On the Blade of Blessings, she attacks one enemy and heals the ally with the lowest HP by 5% of their max HP. But this will not heal this champion, so it's more of a support A1 for the rest of your allies, which is pretty nice. But overall, like, speaking about her utility, I always put her as top 3 epics in the game for everywhere. Like, you can put her anywhere and she's going to shine for your accounts. But in terms of the guaranteed value, it's going to be coming at a cost of 25 Void Shards, which I believe is exactly the same as it was for Demiffa. They're both very strong epic champions. Like, I'd go to as far to say as game changers. So, for anybody that is going for the fusion, or you're happening to summon Void Shards for some of the voids in the 10x list, then it might be somebody that you might want to consider and get yourself a Godseeker Aniri. Let me know if you feel like that's worth it for the 25 voids. I believe someone like a Kempton, Saf was telling me, was 40. So it's definitely a lot less than the cost of someone like him, right? But briefly, I just want to show you how much of a value she does have, because if we head into my dungeons, go into my Iron Twins Fortress team, you can see here, Godseeker Aniri is part of the team. She's helping out my Sandlash Survivor. She's healing them up. And if Geomancer dies, brings them back and places that instant burns. Really cool synergy. We go into the Sand Devil's Necropolis. Go down into the highest stage. And I was using a team like this. The duo skills, we come through. I usually do stage 24 because of the affinities. So I'm usually doing this one. But puts in a tremendous value. And in the Doom Tower, the clan boss, really, really strong champion. But for the rest of this 10x event, let's just break down those. So starting off, we've got Sepulcher Sentinel, another clan boss game changer. If we head into the... Is it Knights Revenant? Sepulcher? Yeah, there she is. And a fun fact, when the Rotos fusion was on, I couldn't get the Rotos right. I completely forgot to fuse on time. We had the Sepulcher Sentinel. She was a really strong one for my account. I was actually a part of my first ever clan boss video for my YouTube channel. And one of the first reasons I got to Ultra Nightmare. Reason being, decreased attack A1, really good. But increased defense and block debuffs on a 4-turn cooldown in the same skill set for all allies. Now, this is really, really strong, right? Put this on a 4-to-3 ratio, you'll be good to go. But also has a 50% chance of completely blocking incoming damage when an ally is attacked, and occurs once per turn, and will only block damage for the targeted ally if multiple allies are attacked at the same time. So really kept up my Skull Crusher sometimes, or whoever that may be. A really, really good passive to have in your clan boss team, with a defensive aura that can be used everywhere in the game. But primarily clan boss, right? Really, really strong. Next up is going to be somebody I used to use in, what was it, the Spider's Den, when I was first progressing for like stage 25. And it's Achak the Wendarin. A really good freeze option because attacks all enemies and has a great chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn on enemies whose attack is higher than their defense. This usually goes out on those spiderlings. Also has a 100% chance of placing a burn debuff for 1 turn on enemies whose defense is equal to or higher than their attack. So when you're facing content such as the Doom Tower waves, you may see a fluctuation in terms of what she's going to be doing here. Also on the A2 with the Cannibal Might, places a block debuff on all allies for 1 turn, and a 25% strengthen on all allies for 2 turns, which is a very strong form of damage reduction. So don't underlook the strengthen, has a lot of value. Also the block debuffs. And also a chance of decreasing the duration of a random buff if the target is under a HP burn, as a chance of decreasing turn meter instead if they are under a freeze. But overall, even with this passive on the Twisted Hunger, healing all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under a HP burn gets a turn, or filling turn meters while under freeze, this has a lot of good synergies for an epic champion here. Next up is going to be Skathix. Now, let me know, guys, do you use Skathix? Like, for me personally, I've used him in... He's a lizard, right? Yeah, there he is. I've used him in the Iron Twins Fortress, kind of proccing the passive a little bit to pair with the burns. Has some good support utility, because removes all debuffs from all allies. Full out cleanse. Love to see it. Also places a block debuff buff and a shield on all allies for 2 turns. So really strong with the Scale of Ages. And the shield buff is equal to 20% of this champion's max HP, which I'm always a fan of. And I would go as far to say as pretty underrated skill here. Like, full out cleanse, a block debuffs, a shield as well. It's really, really nice. On the transfer rush, attacks all enemies and has a chance of stealing buffs from each enemy. That's interesting, maybe for faction wars. And also attacks 1 enemy and a chance of placing a decreased speed debuff, and places a block damage on this champion whenever the HP drops below 30%. So a lot of cool universal synergy coming out from Skathix, and might be somebody you may see on the way to Godseeker Aniri if any of you are summoning. Next up is going to be someone that I still use in Classic Arena from time to time. And it's going to be Madame Serris. Had some really cool skins, by the way. Let me know, which one's your favorite skin? I think I like the Blood Veil one the most. Or the Classic. But pretty much it all comes down to this Midnight Ritual, removing all buffs from enemies, and then will follow by placing a decreased attack and a decreased defense, setting you up for the ultimate nuke from your nukers, and kaboom. They'll be hit to the ground. But also with the Trick or Treat, attacks all enemies and has a chance of stealing buffs, places a block debuff buff on allies for 2 turns when buffs are stolen, and also a True Fear debuff on enemies who have buffs stolen. So a very underrated Trick or Treat A2 coming out from her. But yeah, big fan of Madame Serris. Congratulations to anybody that pulls their first one, I guess. A recent fusion is coming into the mix here. Probably one of the best. I'd go as far to say as top 2, at least. And it's going to be Pythion. Now, Pythion has a really unique passive with the overlay where allies receive less damage from skills from each buff on them and stacks up to 25%. And this isn't just AoE damage like a Duchess. This is all incoming damage, so really stacking those buff on your allies is going to come into full effect of this overlay. Also has one of the best revival abilities in the game because it not only revives them, but places a turn meter fill of 50%, 50% HP, and also a 25% strengthen in the same skill set. And this is remarkable for keeping the support on your allies so they don't immediately die upon revival. With the shed skin has a removing of all debuffs as well and heals them by 10% of their max HP and also heals each ally by an extra 5% of their max HP for each debuff removed from them. And we'll follow this with the block debuffs to keep you affinity friendly in clan boss or simply support your team in the arena. A lot of good use here. And underrated A1 that can actually heal a good amount on your allies. So Pythion, really, really strong. Next up is Underpriest Brogni. I know a bunch of you guys like it when I say that. Yeah, Underpriest Brogni, really, really strong. Once again, another fusion. And I always say, like, these two are the best fusions in the game. And they're both in the same 10x in a sense. So really, really good. It all comes down to the Resilient Globe because he places a block debuffs and an increased attack and a shield buff equal to 30% of this champion's max HP. And it becomes protected, so cannot be removed on a 3-turn cooldown. It's amazing, right? Think about the Eternal Dragon, the clan boss, the arena. Really, really strong. But it comes even better with the Redoubt passive because whenever an ally under a shield buff is attacked, will reflect the damage inflicted on the shield back to the attacker. So a strong form of damage for many of those boss encounters. Also stands as the only champion that can extend the value of those shields, right? Really good. Maybe extend Tarogi the Frogs in the clan boss and has a lot of synergy for those shield champions. Or simply just his own. Also will remove a random debuff from allies in the same skill. Really, really strong here, right? On the A1 with the HP burn. Also, I was using this in Eternal Dragon before. And overall, just a standout choice for all players in this game. Next up, arguably the best legendary in Raid. Yes, I said it. From the Demon Spawn faction, we have got Miss Duchess Lilitu. Now, Duchess is... I would go as far as, for me anyway, I say that she is the best champion in Raid, purely because of her universal value is somewhere where I use her everywhere. But let me know, guys, who do you think is the best legendary in Raid? With the passive, AoE damage reduction and 15% against bosses has a tremendous value in so many areas. Revives all allies and places a veil on them for protection. And also coincides with a continuous heal buff to heal them back up on a 4-turn cooldown. We've got Perfect Veil, block debuffs, and increased attack in the same skill on the A2. And I utilize this in the arena every day. And on the A1 has a chance of placing a shield and equal to 10% of this champion's max HP. And as long as you're scaling it, you're going to get a great value and a speed aura as well. So Duchess Lilitu, this is actually a really good 10x. Like, although 10x champions are really hard to proc, how many of you guys got your Mako, by the way? I know a bunch of you went for it. It's not a bad 10x. Like, all of these champions I consider as really, really good. Last but not least is going to be Cardiel from the Sacred Orders faction. Somebody that I don't have. Somebody that I value, but I just don't like the aesthetics personally. I feel like there's a bit too much going on. But he's one of the only champions that really helps you out in the finite hard. I see him in so many teams. In the arena, in the Hydra boss, you name it. Also has that universal value I like to bang on about. But places an increased crit rate, increased crit damage on all allies, amplifying their damage and not needing 100% crit rate, so you can start putting more damage on them, right? And then teams up with all allies to attack a target enemy. And I'm pretty sure that if you've got some good single target nukers like Kanjathon, they're not going to be seen the next round. And decreases the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if an enemy is killed from this attack. So really, really strong here. Also with the A2, removes all debuffs from all allies, places a block debuffs, and a revive on death, and the revive on death is protected so you cannot remove it. I've gone up against this in the arena, I'm like, I'm going to have to kill you guys twice or just let it wear off pretty much, so it can be really tedious. On the Cal, the Wicked attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 7.5% of their max HP, really nice, and also a True Fear for 1 turn if the target is a champion from specific factions here. On the passive, it's an SA, but basically has really good synergies with Sisia Flametongue and receive less damage from allies against those specific factions, being Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes, and the Knights Revenant. So, overall, really, really good. I would love to have Cardiel one day on my account. And let me know, guys, will you be summoning for this 10x? Are you going for the fusion? Are you going for the guaranteed, what's the name? Godseeker Aniri. Love Godseeker. Or simply, are you just not summoning and saving for a future event? Now, last but not least, I do want to bring up this because it's pretty surprising news, actually. It just got sprung upon us. Let me just get a picture of myself as well and have what Ray told us. So, I was actually going to break this up into 2 videos. You probably heard this already because creators can release this an hour ago from when you're seeing this. But basically, she is from the Shadowkin faction. You know I love that. She's a legendary, of course, attack base from the Force Affinity, and she has come into the game to celebrate episode 6 of Call of the Arbiter, which is the episode that is live now for Jizzo, which I'm actually pretty excited for. I thought that he sounds like Optimus Prime, but I still need to watch it at the time of filming this. It says that Tatsu's place to shine is definitely the arena in all its variations. Classic arena, the tag team arena, or simply the live arena. She can be used in either way as a damage dealer or a debuffer, which I did definitely see when I first seen the kit. And the latter case might require you to pair her with another damage dealer and you're good to go. So basically they're saying if you want to use her as a debuffer, then you want to be bringing in another damage dealer. Maybe use it in a role of a Prince Kaimar as a setup phase. Or simply, if you've got another way of just wanting to use her as a nuker and crowd controlling with somebody else, you can definitely do that as well. Tatsu's passive makes her immune to sleep debuff, so meta champions such as Sify and Prince Kaimar won't be able to control her. So in that initial phase, it's going to be really strong, but just remember, like, if the rest of your champions are slept, she doesn't have a way to cleanse all allies, only herself, so she's a bit of selfish one in that regard. But I'm not going to read out all of this. But it says that we will be able to obtain her through an event, okay? So players above level 51 will have a chance to get this champion, being the first place in their brackets for the champion development tournament that will start shortly. And I believe that this will be starting at the exact same time as the Jizzo episode ends, so probably live at the moment. But let me just break down the kit for myself. So, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit will transfer a random debuff from this champion to a target. And then will fill this champion's turn meter by 5% for each transferred debuffed. Now, one place that really stood out to me would be the hard mode of the dragon. Maybe sending back some of those poisons, therefore killing that boss more efficiently there. But of course, being an attack-based champion, it really comes down to her survivability and her base stats in order to stay alive. And of course, you will need accuracy, as it's not a non-resistible skill. But overall, pretty nice A1, sending some stuff back. On the Wraith Explosion attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance of placing a decreased resistance, which we just seen with Great Hoof Loriaka. I don't know, weird timing maybe? You guys let me know. Also has a chance of placing a sleep in the same skill, both being at a 100% chance of placement, and will then fill this champion's turn meter by 10% for each debuff placed. So in a hypothetical scenario, right, this is the way that I read it. If we're going up against, in the classic arena, 4 champions, right, because that's where they said that she's going to shine. If you, in a hypothetical scenario, okay, have enough accuracy to place it on all of the enemies, that's 4 debuffs from decreased resistance, and then 4 debuffs from the sleep. Therefore, that's an 80% turn meter fill, almost immediately granting you that extra turn, right? 20% difference. But it's a big turn meter fill, right? In a perfect scenario, or even in the Doom Tower waves, if you want to use it as more of a wave clearing champion, right? Could have some value, and also decreased resistance can be used in the Hydra boss. I believe that this one's probably going to be the money scaling ability, so I'm expecting her to deal the most damage out of this A2, but I'll be interested to see that. But then if you do happen to lead into that turn, right, in a hypothetical scenario, we filled the turn meters, Purgation Blade will then attack one enemy 2 times, before attacking will remove all debuffs from herself, and then will steal all buffs from a target. Now, if this is non-resistible after this, I'll be like, whoa, hold up a second. Game changer alert. But once again, you're going to need accuracy. And the problem with these champions, right, is if you want to get that hybrid build, good example would be like Leorius. Like, I really struggle to get my damage capabilities, but I also value his true fear and his weaken to an extent. And it's sometimes you just have to make up that decision. What do you want to do with this chick, or him, or whoever the champion is? You know what I mean? So I like that there's some versatility to the kit. Maybe in the faction wars we'll be seeing great value and stuff, I understand. But in order for her to become meta, is she a really strong debuffer here? Or is she simply a really strong damage dealer? But we'll have to playtest and see that. But overall, on paper, seems like a really good champion. But just not exactly who I would swap out for her, if that makes sense. But if you do happen to kill an enemy with this A3, she does place an increased attack and increased crit damage on herself. But I do feel like that should be happening before attacking to kind of increase her attack so you don't need an increased attack champion in your team. Because right now, you still need that increased attack in order to have enough damage to kill the enemy, right? So then the increased attack just becomes a bit void. You might as well just have increased crit damage, right? But if you think about maybe faction wars, could have some utility. Maybe very similar to Nogorio, who I've got a video coming out on, where if they drop below a specific threshold, he gets that increased attack that becomes protected. So, yeah, pretty decent, I guess. Immune to sleep is nice. It's a bit niche, but it's nice. Countering those Sifis or those Prince Kaimos from setting you up. And then we'll increase this champion's accuracy and crit damage for each buff on the enemy team, kind of helping her out in a sense. Like, let's just say they've got 3 buffs on each enemy's 3, 6, 9, 12, 120 accuracy could be added to your Tatsu. But aesthetic-wise, looks amazing. It is a champion that is available from being first place. I wish it would be more like third place or something. I don't know. Like, maybe a milestone reward. I always think about this stuff, like limiting it to 1 player per thing. I've never been a fan of, but good luck to anybody that is actually going for Tatsu. And let me know if you're going for her. She's basically her Tatsu without the HO in the beginning. But there you go, guys. That is going to be all for today's video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like, subscribe button. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys on a video soon. Peace.